Okay, hey everyone. If you're wondering what AI CERTs is all about, let me just quickly let you know that AI CERTs provides role-based AI and blockchain certifications designed to promote lifelong learning. Our goal is to help companies build smarter workforces, adapt to change, and drive growth, all while working towards our ambitious mission of certifying a billion people only. I'm Rohini, and I'm delighted to welcome you to today's fireside chat, Transforming HR with AI from recruitment to employee engagement. I'm excited to guide you through this engaging discussion. Well, as you all know, AI is revolutionizing industries, and HR is no exception, right? In this session, we'll dive into how AI is redefining HR practices, spanning recruitment, hiring, employee engagement, and retention. Let's get started. Please join me in welcoming Jitendra as our guest speaker. We're delighted to have you with us today, Jitendra. Let's learn a little bit more about the speaker before we begin. Well, Jitendra is not just your average HR leader. He is a powerhouse with over 17 years of experience helping companies scale up and transform their cultures. As the Chief Human Resource Officer at 𝗲𝗏𝗧𝗧, a rapidly growing wellness startup, Jitendra has played a key role in shaping talent strategies, building a positive workplace culture, and driving operational excellence. But that's just the beginning. Before 𝗲𝗏𝗧𝗧, Jitendra made waves at HealthCart and More Engage, where he helped these startups grow at lightning speed while ensuring their culture stayed strong and vibrant. He's the go-to expert when it comes to scaling up and transforming the culture of high growth companies. Well, beyond these corporate roles, Jitendra is also a sought after public speaker who has graced both national and international platforms. He spent a lot of time engaging with tier one institutions like IIM, sharing his wisdom and leadership growth and culture transformation with with the next gen of leaders. And here's a fun twist. Jitendra is also a semi professional cricketer. He brings his leadership skills from the cricket field into the boardroom, making him a true all rounder in both business and sports. So, get get ready to have some incredible insights and maybe a few cricket analogs as Jitendra takes the stage today. Jitendra, thank you so much for being here. Let's dive right in. How are you? How are you feeling today?
Thank you, Roni, for having me. And I was just wondering, what all you just said, in terms of introduction. Have I done so much? But thank you, for being gracious and
Absolutely, it's all yours.
yeah. So, really looking forward to this conversation. This topic is very, very relevant, not just to me, but also to a lot of HR professionals. Especially after the entire wave of Gen AI and LLM. So, really looking forward to sharing anecdotes from my journey, as well as talking about some myth and failures that I have seen myself, which not a lot of people talk about. So yeah, really looking forward to this conversation, Rohini.
Amazing. I can't wait for it, right? Let's dive right in. Well, to begin, let's start about talking, if you could share your perspective on the impact of AI in HR.
So uh, I think the impact has been very, very significant, and I don't need to copy this statement, uh, but I just need to make sure that all of us are aware, about the changes we are going through, not just in terms of HR, but also in terms of civilization, right? Because what we do in business and what we do at work, is a reflection of what's been happening outside in the society and civilization as well. So there used to be times when technology was very, very different. These were the times of 1970s, wherein personal computers had just walked in. the rate of change, was very, very different. And, in the last 5 years, the rate of change is extremely, extremely different. And I would say, it has changed the human, uh, I would say, uh, mankind, right, to multifolds. So if I have to talk about, how AI has impacted HR, AI has not left any process, sub-process untouched by uh, technology. And if you look at recruitment, you look at retention, you look at talent management, employee experience, right? The entire hire to retire cycle, has been impacted, and it has been impacted for good, to most parts. But it's very, very, I would say, important to also realize and acknowledge the importance of change, because it's not just the impact. It is also, the change in terms of mindset which has been brought in. While people have started implementing technologies, people have started implementing new tools, and with that comes, I would say, a lot of resistance as well. And we will definitely talk about some of those items as well. But all in all, there has been a significant shift in terms of how we manage people, but also in terms of, how the future of work is going to look like as well.
That's interesting. I think I'd like to break it down and talk about specific areas of impact. Maybe starting with recruitment. How are AI and automation transforming the future of recruitment?
So I think recruitment is one sub-function within HR, which has been impacted the most, right? And there are multiple use cases, which organizations are trying to solve. And I've seen a lot of organizations are trying to take a first principle thinking, in solving for their organizational context. Now, if you look at different organizations are solving different parts of the problem within recruitment. So, for example, an enterprise organization which is 5,000 CR plus, have close to about 10,000 plus employees spread everywhere, is trying to solve recruitment by leveraging AI a little differently. Then let's say an organization, which is fast growing, Series A funded, want to grow extremely, extremely fast, high volume, high complexity game, right? Want to grow from, let's say, 100 people to about 600, 700 employees, in close to about a quarter. So I think it is also dependent on what is the context of the organization, and hence the kind of use cases which AI is solving, differs. Now, one of the core, I would say, use case, that AI is solving for recruitment is how do you become a better and an efficient talent acquisition function or a team, right? Because nowadays time is of extremely, extremely value, right? Bandwidth, is like a luxury, in today's time, and the way you have to use your resources, it needs to be watched very, very carefully, and especially in these economic times, right? Cost, becomes the utmost focus area for a lot of organizations. So in that era, you have to become a highly, highly efficient talent acquisition organization, which means, when your recruiters go and start, working on the job portals, when they start sourcing, when they start looking at the entire top of the funnel, right? How do you build a very, very efficient value chain within recruiting? So, which means, how do you move from, let's say, a 10% conversion to, about a 15% conversion, right? Which ensures that the entire pipeline becomes an efficient organization at the same time. So this is the first, I would say, impact, which is, becoming a highly efficient talent acquisition organization. Second use case, which I believe AI has been solving is, the entire concept around speed. Now, many of the times efficiency and effectiveness, are two dichotomous versions, of a problem. But, for organizations, who are growing very, very fast, speed is of utmost importance. Now, I'm not saying that, we improve our conversions from 10 to 15%, but at the same time, how do you build a funnel, which is 2x of what it used to be? And how do you have more people coming into your pipeline, not just top of the funnel, but also, the entire screening funnel, for how do you have more conversions, right? At the end of the value chain. So speed has become, extremely, extremely important use case, which means reaching out to more people faster, getting more people in your pipeline, and then converting and rolling out offers, at a breakneck speed while you remain an efficient organization. So this is the second use case, which is extremely important, which is speed. uh, Third, I would say, is how do you become, an organization, which attracts talent well enough, over your competitors, right? And some of the tools that you can use as an organization, taking a cue from the entire AI revolution, is, match jobs more smartly. How do you reduce bias which creeps in, from having different recruiters, right? And how do you prioritize skills and qualifications over other factors? And then, your ability to build an inclusive organization, your ability to become an employer of choice, you know prioritizes over bias. So I think these are the three most important top of the mind use cases that I could see. While there are a few more as well. And the fourth one I would want to pick is the entire experience angle, which is right from, a candidate having to be very clear about, what is my job status, to an interviewer, coming on time, because there are AI tools which constantly nudges them 5 minutes before the interview, 15 minutes before the interview, and then helps them prepare, to be available for an interview. So there has been a fundamental shift in terms of, how the entire experience has played out, not just from an interviewer experience perspective, but also from a candidate experience perspective. So I would like to go with these four fundamental shifts that I have seen, AI is making.
Think amazing. I think even in the world of marketing, we talk about experiential marketing being so much more beneficial than what used to be there a few years ago.
Hmm.
Well said, Jitendra. I think an experience that people are having with regard to AI as an element is
Hmm.
substantial. I agree. Well, I'm just going to pause and make an announcement to our audience. For those who have questions, please feel free to post it on the chat box. On the right side, you can see a chat box. And also there is another icon which is with the question mark. So that's for the Q&A. So both of these features can be used, and we'll definitely take up your questions at the Q&A session so that it does not disturb Jitendra's flow of thought, and we will have a separate Q&A session. Please feel free to use the chat box or a question. And for those raising your hands, I again request you to please put up your questions on the chat box. We will definitely answer it at the end of the session. Well, moving forward, Jitendra, I have another question, which is about how are AI-driven recruitment tools revolutionizing the hiring process in 2024-2025?
So I think I'll just take my previous answer a little forward, right? And the use cases that I was talking about, right? The most significant use case is all about delivering speed to an organization, right? And I will give you my example. When I was building Fitello, we were growing an organization from 100 to 1,500 employees. Now, while we would have loved to have an AI tool, but I think there were some of the basic principles that we leveraged and we conceptualized, which were a precursor of deploying an AI tool, which is, putting in place, pretty solid data mechanism, pretty solid, an insights mechanism, which helps you to make, conscious, informed decision, in order to solve some of the talent problems. So I would say, speed still continues to be of utmost importance as far as any AI tool is concerned. uh, I have to grow, and I have to grow very, very fast, right? A tool which comes in and slows me down, I guess, is not the right tool, and maybe is not relevant, to any organization if it does that. Any tool which comes in, especially an AI tool, which help us enable, recruitment process, should enable speed of the organization. That's number one. Second aspect would be around experience, and I touched a little, in my previous answer. Now, there are two parts of the problem as far as recruitment is concerned. There is a candidate side, which is more around supply side, and then there is an interviewer or a coordinator or a recruiter side. Now there are two parts of the problem, and I believe you will not be able to define a great employee or a candidate or an interviewer experience unless you work on the entire value chain of experience. So which means, how do you identify a talent, right? From there to how do you ensure that the talent refers candidates to you, right? And how do you ensure that once a candidate or a talent is inside your pipeline, how do you provide an experience to them which becomes a great experience? Because ultimately, while people are looking out for jobs, they are looking out for careers, they are also looking out for great cultures and experiences. And I think there is a lot which has been said in terms of the experience, right? I mean, if I have to be a part of, any organization, what I go through in those 10 days or 20 days and multiple conversations and rounds defines who the organization is. So it really is very, very philosophical, but at the same time, it's really, really critical that we define our experiences in such a manner that it is not just fast, it just do not give the feedback back to the candidate, but it also reflects the culture and values of the organization. For example, I go in an interview and the interviewer, is late by 15 minutes, directly comes onto the call, no greetings, nothing, and starts grilling me. Right. So it's a very layman, example, and I just hope that it doesn't happen too very often in recruiting circuits. But there are times when things like this do happen. So I think from an AI tool perspective, it's also very, very critical and important. How do we communicate our culture and values as part of experience, in the entire recruiting landscape? So I would like to pick these two.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, I think the next question would be around how can AI streamline recruitment and efficiency, efficiently identify top candidates? I'll
So I
repeat the
think,
question.
yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask that how can AI streamline recruitment and efficiently identify top candidates? Thanks.
So I think there are multiple ways in which there are some tools which are performing. I mean there are NLP based tools which matches skills, qualifications, and the desirable criterias very well with what is available in the market in terms of talent, right? And this is where it streamlines the process, and this is where it sort of helps us differentiate talent. Now if you are being able to create those criterias, you are being able to deploy those criterias within the tool. The tool is smart enough, right, to perform, an algorithmic function which comes back and tells you that, hey, out of these 1000 employees, sorry, 1000 candidates, right, these are the top 10, which are not just the exact match, but also near approximate matches in terms of skills, in terms of qualifications, in terms of attributes as well. And this is where I believe, it cuts, a lot of flap for recruiters, helps them being more efficient, helps them focus more on having uh, very focused conversation with these 10 people rather than, just going through piles of resumes, where people just spend, I guess, couple of seconds on one resume, and the possibility of error is quite significant, wherein people are just sifting through resumes and not necessarily trying to identify talent. So I believe, this is an area wherein, people have been able to streamline a lot of their recruiting processes, by using NLP based skill matching criterias. And I think this is the most fundamental, especially in a volume game. If you are hiring, let's say, close to about 200 people every month, right? Which means,
That's
if you
right.
are
Yeah.
onboarding, which means you are onboarding about 200 people.
Yeah.
And, if I back calculate, typically there's a 3 to 4%, conversion. If you look at
Hmm.
any volume, or let's say a people services business, and if you look at back calculating, if you are going to be looking at anywhere around 3000 to 4000 people, as part of your top of the funnel. So in order to onboard about 200 people, right, you have to look at, let's say, anywhere from 2500 to 3500 people as part of your top of the funnel. So which means quite significant number, right? So you have to invest, in talking to these people, in going through CVs, in trying to identify how do you screen. And I believe in a volume sum game, it really makes a lot of difference, by having an AI tool, which matches the job criteria, with the attributes of people.
Well, with that note, do you want to like share some popular HR AI tools that's available in the market like these? I mean, not to definitely promote any, but then which are trustworthy and what people could probably, take your suggestion.
So, I would like to refrain from, taking any names. But I can share that, there are multiple tools. If we go on Google, you are definitely very close to finding some of these tools. But I can essentially talk about the use cases. So a lot of these new age ATS that you see in the market, right, have these functionalities inbuilt, wherein they can scrape through, or they can parse through a lot of CVs at scale, which means, looking at about 1000 CVs, in a brink of an eye, right, and present near close 50 CVs to a recruiter, just with a click. So a lot of new age ATS, applicant tracking systems that we see in the market, have AI enabled uh, features to them. That's number one. Apart from this, there are, a few tools which are services as a software tool. Now we have always, heard about software as a service, but now there are a few tools, which are available in the market, which are services as a software. So which means, how do you uh, sort of evaluate a candidate, how do you assess a candidate, because that is very, very subjective and qualitative in nature. Now there are some tools which are available, and these are AI tools. Now these are sort of AI co-pilots, which means they help a recruiter become very, very efficient. You just need to train, the AI co-pilot. The AI co-pilot, will just walk in, go through, the entire data which is being fed, do a part job of a recruiter, screen people based on the data, matches near term, I would say, performers, come back to you, and then possibly nudge you to have more conversation or more rounds. Again, which helps you to become far more efficient. And I would say, this solves a standardization and consistency problem, because all of us have realized and seen five people having five different recruiting styles, right? Having different biases tends to make very, very different decisions and choices. Now, somewhere, you are trying to solve for standardization and consistency, because if the organization values, let's say, openness and values decision making or database decision making, then five of these recruiters or line managers will not select on a sixth criteria. Possibly they are forced to select someone on a consistent criteria which is fed into the system, which is database decision making. So I think somewhere it also helps us be more standardized, help us solve for consistency, and hire people which are close to what our need is.
Absolutely. I think it's having like a professional companion and an advisor at work that is
Yeah.
being just fair and doing all the mundane work, right? That's pretty interesting. I think it's going to change the world very soon. Well, the next question for you would be, how can modern HR technology improve workforce expectations and attract top talent? I know we've spoken a little bit about it already, but
Yeah.
maybe you want to focus a little. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I would like to pick up expectations, as a core theme from the question, and want to talk a little, more on that. So whenever we talk about expectations, we talk about multiple aspects that people are looking forward to. Now we are in times wherein we have multiple generations working together, and different generations will have different expectations from the workplace. Now, if you have millennials, you have Generation Y as well, if you have Generation Z, and now, we are talking about Alpha generation also sort of walking in. Now, multiple generations, will have multiple expectations from a workplace. Now, how do you sort of build an organization, which takes care of the expectations of these generations? I think, it all starts with the input, and talent acquisition is an input process, because it lets talent come into your system. Now, to be able to manage expectations later on, I think you need to be first able to set the right expectation and filter those people with that expectation to walk in to your system. So I think if you as an organization can define these expectations on a piece of paper, you take that piece of paper, go to an AI tool, build build the tool in such a manner that the entire recruiting process talks about having those expectations, right from what should be there in their experience, the kind of beliefs that they have as a talent, the kind of cultural values and sentiments they demonstrate during the interview process. So I think if all these expectations can be built into your recruiting process, which ultimately can be fed into the AI tool, I think the way you filter talent, right, is going to be close to what you are wanting to make as an organization. Now once you have made the first filter, after that it is all about managing the expectations of those people. So you have let's say a set of 10 people who somewhat are inclined towards these expectations or are fairly close to fulfilling those expectations. Now it's all about managing those 10 people, and I think there are some other use cases that can also be solved for, which is listening to these 10 people, right? And this is where AI can play an important role, especially in a very, very fragmented business. Let's say these 10 people, are spread everywhere, are not operating out of one office, right? Spend 3 days at client side and rest 2 or 3 days, in office. and the work mode is very very dynamic. It's hybrid plus remote plus client plus I would say freelancing mode. Now, to be able to listen to these people, right, and especially a lot of these people you know are are from a very very different region altogether, so not all of them speak English. You have regional dialect as well, and then you have some people comfortable in English. Now I'm just trying to add complexities to this particular use case, because this is where it will become interesting, and this truly happens in business as well. Now, how do you listen to these people, right? Because your HR business partner will not have such a capability to be able to talk to anyone and everyone in a quarter, right? And come back with an understanding of what these 10 geos are telling you, what these X number of people from different regions are telling you. And somewhere the bandwidth and the mind share also is very very limited. Now this is where AI tool comes into picture, right? Where an AI can actually go to people at the time at which you want it to be, have conversations with them. And these are not recorded conversations, these can be real time conversations. These could be chat based conversations, and these could also be copilot conversations, wherein an AI is actually having a conversation with an employee. No, it could also be dependent on the life stage of the employee, right? You will talk to a 6 month, tenured employee little differently than, let's say, a 5 year tenured employee, with very, very different generational differences. And I think that is where, complexity can be navigated much better. And going back to what you asked me, right? It's not just about filtering the expectations, but now it is about managing the expectations. Now, for managing, you first need to understand what are the expectations. You heard it from them. Where are you not, I would say, doing a good job, right? Where do you need to focus on? Where do you need to improve on? Once you are being able to listen to all these expectations, you can define, I would say, very, very relevant talent management interventions and, let's say, retention mechanisms to be able to manage these expectations. Over to you, Rohini.
That's amazing. Yeah, thank you so much for such a nice detailed explanation for that question, Jitendra. Well, I think these were extremely insightful, and now we shall move towards the Q&A part of the webinar. And the first question I have here is from a participant who has was asked, "What are the simple ways a recruiter use AI without having to wait for the organization to invest on big tools?"
Can you name the person and ask the question again?
Okay, this is coming from 𝗳𝗲𝗀𝗵𝗶 Subramanian.
Hmm.
And I'll repeat the question. She's asking, what are the simple ways a recruiter can use AI without having to wait for the organization to invest on big tools?
So, I would like to rephrase the question a little differently. So, Vijay Lakshmi is asking that, if my organization has not implemented AI, right? How can I, as an individual recruiter, can leverage, or can make
Absolutely, you
use
got it right. Yeah.
of right. So there are multiple ways, and there are multiple tools which are available even for recruiters as well, right? One is definitely Chat GPT. So if you go to Chat GPT or some of the other tools as well, right? You can. So one of the very very important role that a recruiter has to perform is to create JDs, right? Create job descriptions. So creating job description, takes a lot of bandwidth. There's a lot of back and forth with business, and sometimes you have to refer, 10 different job descriptions, spend a lot of time. And I'm talking about this because, I myself, have been in that journey, right? Wherein creating job descriptions really takes a lot of time. There are tools available in the market, including Chat GPT, wherein, if you you can create uh, relevant prompts, and the job description can be created very, very easily, and that too, in a much quicker time. Now, while being aware of the fact that it's not just a cut, copy, paste, right? But you still have to review the job description. You still have to solve for the context, because Chat GPT does not necessarily will have the context of your organization, right? For example, if you're a retail organization and you want to hire a product manager, now, product manager, in a tech organization is very different than a product manager in an FMCG or a retail organization, right? So you have to still solve for context, but there are still a lot of tools available. Chat GPT is there. There are a few other tools available as well, which are free ATS as well. Now, while ATS, is an enterprise tool which needs to be used by the organization, but you can still use certain modules, of that ATS, wherein, you put in, certain data, and these free ATS softwares, will give you a near close match. And possibly as a recruiter, if you can be a little smart enough in just talking to those people, spending more time, on those candidates, and possibly not move forward. So there are definitely a lot of tools, and I also spoke about AI Copilot, right? You can definitely use some of these free plugin softwares, which help you to screen candidates, much faster.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that explanation. The next question we have is from 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗶𝗴𝗵𝗁𝗁 well, I'm not I'm not able to understand, but then, however, I'm going to read this out.
Sure,
She's
sure.
asking you to repeat the four fundamentals and summarize it again. I think you mentioned the
So
four fundamentals in the first
yeah, yeah,
part of the webinar. Yeah.
got it. So let me still try to be a little crisp this time. So the
Yeah.
four fundamentals, I believe, are speed, efficiency, experience, and culture and values, in a consistent manner. So I believe these are the four fundamentals, which I spoke about. These are the fundamentals, which impacts, or are the outcomes that any of us can look forward to while deploying AI, or principles that we can consider.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I have also responded in text. 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗃𝗃, you can make a note of that. The next question is, how can AI simplify the remote recruiting process?
Well, I think, we spoke a lot about it, right? So, I mean, we've been
I think
speaking about
it's
this
it's
more
been
last
answered. Yeah.
30 minutes. So, I believe, it has already been answered. So, AI, can solve for everything, right from responding to candidates, even when you are not available, right, as a recruiter. Uh, right from there to the interviewers, being followed up with, even when you are not available, right? So I think the entire value chain, can be impacted by an AI tool, right from communication to coordination to screening to shortlisting to even rolling out an offer. So anything that can happen in physical mode, AI has made it possible to do it much faster in remote
Yeah,
mode.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, the next question is, what are the three ways to start transforming employee engagement as on today?
Okay. So, three ways to transform employee engagement. First, I would believe is experience. So, I think an employee experience needs to be looked at very, very differently, right? And this is where AI can really contribute a lot with. making real-time experiential shifts to an employee's journey, making it more personalized. And this is where I believe if an employee experience can be redefined using these two principles, there is going to be higher level of engagement in the organization. So just look at it this way, if people's experiences have become more personalized and it has become more real time, the level of engagement of an employee will go up or will potentially go up. Just to give an example, I've seen multiple organizations, people have to really follow up a lot for their full and final settlement. Lot of places, right? Someone has actually gone out of the organization, and there are these funny policies around 45 days, after leaving, right? For no reason. It's just there, right? I mean, these are archaic policies which are there that, if you have to uh, uh, give someone's FNF only after 45 days. And, I mean, not a lot of people actually, understands the logic for that or define the logic, but the policy is just there. Look at the experience versus, let's say, you know, paying out full and final settlement, let's say within 15 days. While I know that, it is also a function of policy, but also I believe, if this can be done, right, not just as a process, but also policy, the experience speaks a lot. So if there could be real time experiences and uh, experiences which can be personalized, right, will improve engagement. That's number one. Second, I believe is, your ability to understand what employee expectations are. And we just took an example, of a highly fragmented organization, right? Now, people are in multiple geographies, speaking multiple languages with multiple work modes. Now, an HR business partner can never ever be able to, spend time with them, have a one-on-one conversation, understand with data, analyze that data, right, in less time, and then will not be able to present it, with sharp insights. But an AI can do that. So, which means, it has become much faster, it has become better, it has also become very, very standardized. Now, they can present consistent, I would say, observations which help you as an HR leader or an organization to look at what employee engagement really means for us. Where are we not doing well? What are the areas of opportunity? What are the areas of concern for us as far as engagement is concerned? Is it because my managers are not treating well? Or is it because people are not aware about where the organization is heading? Or is it about the entire organization is very, very uncertain about the future? You've got to know about where the problem is. And this is where AI can really come handy, help you understand, right? Employee expectations, their fears, their uncertainties, their, I would say, their expectations.
Agree,
So that's
agree with that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so we have the next question from Sumit Matre. He would like to ask, with AI and remote working disrupting workforce structures, how can AI professionals foster adaptability among employees to cope up with these changes? Want me to repeat that?
yeah. Please go on.
Yeah. So he is asking, with AI and remote working disrupting workforce structures, how can HR professionals foster adaptability among employees to cope up with this change?
Okay. So I think this is not, this is true for any implementation or any new change. So
Yeah.
fundamentally, people are not very receptive to change. Now, whether you are bringing in an AI tool, or you are bringing in a new HRMS, or you
Yeah,
are bringing in a new compensation model, right?
yeah, yeah,
People are
absolutely.
not receptive to change. What you can possibly do is, do a good change management to be able to ensure that people believe in that change, to be able to ensure, people accept that change, because then only they'll be able to adapt to that change, right? So whatever change that you are planning to bring in, try and communicate in a very, very consistent manner. That's number one. So communication is extremely important, for such sort of change. Second, I would say, is involvement. Try and involve people, if not in the decision making, then in rolling out some of these programs or tools. While it is good to involve them in the decision making, but it depends on the organizational context. But certainly you should involve them in the implementation, because this is where they will start believing in the program or the tool or the change. Third, I would say, is again taking a cue from the point one, reinforce communication. You have to again and again communicate about the changes. Fourth, you have to talk about what is in it for them. If people are not aware what is in it for them, they will never ever be able to accept the change. Now, forget about adapting. You know, you have to solve for acceptance, and then you know you have to provide resources. Now, resources could be in terms of incentives, could be in terms of training, could be in terms of monetary aspects as well, which makes them believe in the change a little more. And this is where people can become more uh, adaptable. And fourth aspect is capability. How do they become capable on handling and managing such a change? If you can do these five or six things, in a change process, I'm sure people are going to be somewhat receptive to change. While there's no one size fits all, some problems will still remain, but I guess you have to take a very contextual view of solving those problems. So just try and do these five to six things, and I'm sure you'll have some or the other success while managing change.
Thank you for that, Jitendra. I think the next question is from Sakshi Verma. She's asking how not using AI for years will set back the L&D department.
So I think it's a very good question, right? And my honest view on this is, I think as a professional or as an organization, we have to be very relevant in the market and in the industry. Now, if the world is moving down south, we need to also respond to the changes in the world. Now, if we do not adapt to the new changes in the world, we will become outdated very, very soon. Now, as a professional, that is the most dangerous thing that can ever happen, to become outdated and to become irrelevant in the new scheme of things, or in the context of change, or in the future of work. Second, the organization will go nowhere. What worked in the past will not work in the future, right? So you have to be very relevant to changing times. You have to adapt to changing times. You have to acquire new skill sets. You have to develop newer ways of thinking and newer ways of working. And if we if we are able to respond to the changes, I'm sure we will become a better professional and a better function, not just an L&D, but also an ops function, or a business partner, or a talent acquisition function. I think, I mean, there was a statement from Charles Darwin's, right? uh, Theory of, I would say, origin. which says that it's not the strongest which survives, right? It's the most adaptable that survives. So I think it holds true for all of us, and to our functions and to our organizations that we're representing.
I think it's been an extremely interactive session. Thank you, all of you. But we'll take just this last question for today because we're almost running short of time here. This is coming in from another, participant. He is asking, very interesting session. Thank you so much for that. What tools we can train ourselves on a Okay, let me rephrase this. What tools, what AI tools which can be implemented in L&D world? I use Copilot, etc., but is there anything else which can be adapted, open
Mhm.
source? I have used Synthesia as well.
Got it. Got it. So Reni, good question. While I'll not be able to name the tools right now, on this webinar. I'm more than happy to connect one-on-one, or connect on LinkedIn, where I can possibly take the liberty of sharing the names. But to be able to answer this question, in a generic fashion, I believe there's one simple tool that a lot of L&D professionals can use, uh, which is a note maker, uh, that all of us use, in our Zoom meetings and Google meetings, because L&D professionals, have to deal with a lot of qualitative data, a lot of information overload, right? And a lot of items, being thrown to them. So I believe, this is one simplest tool that they should definitely use, is in a Google Meet or Zoom meeting, deploy this tool, which can actually synthesize information, right? Share pointed observations, come out with very very simple, and consolidated insights, which can actually feed into the overall L&D mechanisms, either from a need perspective or from a developmental area perspective, because fortunately or unfortunately, there's a lot of qualitative data available in L&D. So I would like to pick this one. It's a very simple tool, but it's a very powerful tool. I would recommend that every L&D professional should use this, if you are not using it.
Okay, that was from 𝗳𝗵𝗶𝗵𝗵𝗵 Sisodia, and he says he will connect with you on LinkedIn, and he has already been interacted in past. Thank you so much for that interesting question. And I think this is also leaning in towards AI Certs product, right? So what AI Certs does is obviously, we are an authorization body which has almost 32 plus role-based certifications. So, somewhere when there was a question related to L&D and people wanting to know more about the tools, you could also try visiting our website, which has AI plus HR certification. And I would personally would say that that would definitely be beneficial for you and as well for your organization. Well, I think it's a wrap for today. And before we do so, we'd like to take a moment to highlight an opportunity for those who want to go deeper into AI's roles in HR. AI Certs offers certifications specifically designed for HR professionals interested in mastering AI's application in HR functions. And those who have attended Jitender's webinar, he has a special coupon code, to avail discount. So it's already on the chat box. Please do make use of it. Feel free to ping us, reach out to us for any other queries about the certification. We'll be very happy to help you out. A few words from you before we wrap up, Jitendra.
So, I just have a few suggestions. I believe, changes will happen in the world. Uh, and we should not look at changes casually, uh, and these are the changes, whether it is AI or it's LLM or it's Gen AI. There will be something or the other which will always uh, come to us, in the arena of future of work. I think all of us should look at embracing change, uh, and we should trust this journey. Be open and acquire newer skill sets. And I think we will definitely be relevant in whatever change that we see. So, from an AI perspective, there is a lot happening in the world. I would advise everyone to read more about it. Take help of AI certs. If you require more professional help, uh, but the future is extremely, extremely interesting, especially, from a technology perspective. So, thank you for having me, Rohini and team. Thank you for, giving this opportunity to share my views on AI and, talk about a few nuggets.
Well, thank you to everyone who has joined us today's session, and a special thank you to you, 𝗳𝗿𝗀𝗏𝗏, for sharing, your expertise on how AI is transforming HR. Extremely beneficial session. Thanks so much for your time. We hope the audience, gain valuable insights into how AI can streamline and enhance HR process. Please stay tuned for more webinars from AI CERTs. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.